All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Let's just be completely honest with each other for a second here. Have you ever found yourself just staring at a glowing phone screen, typing out a message, deleting it, typing it again, and ultimately just sitting there totally paralyzed by overthinking? Or how about this one? You're at a party, having what feels like a fantastic conversation, and then, completely out of nowhere, it just inexplicably fizzles out into this incredibly awkward silence. Yeah, we've literally all been there, it happens. But today, we are unpacking an absolute masterclass on a topic that causes a ton of anxiety for so many of us, dating communication. And we're going to completely strip away the gimmicks, the cheesy pickup lines, and those exhausting mind games. Instead, we're looking at the actual measurable mechanics of attraction. We'll be walking through the exact chronological pipeline of a romantic interaction, step by step, drawing straight from our source materials. This explainer is designed to fundamentally shift how you communicate, starting from that very first moment of eye contact, all the way to actually securing the date. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're hitting 5 key areas. First, the myth of loud confidence. Second, mastering voice and tone. Third, icebreakers that actually work. Fourth, texting without killing attraction. And finally, number 5, escaping the talking phase. Let's go ahead and lay that foundation. Section 1, the myth of loud confidence. So we are kind of culturally conditioned to believe that the confident guy is always the loudest one in the room, right? The guy dominating the conversation, taking up all the oxygen. But our sources reveal that true confidence is actually entirely different. It's deeply, deeply physiological. There's this fascinating research on power posing, you might know it as the Amy Cuddy effect, and it shows that simply standing tall, keeping an open chest for just 2 minutes, physically alters your brain chemistry. Literally, it increases your testosterone and simultaneously lowers your cortisol, which is your primary stress hormone. You don't have to somehow magically feel confident first. Your physiology can actually drag your brain right into that state. And here is where it gets absolutely wild. Mirror neurons. Think about what happens when a guy approaches someone, but he's completely flooded with cortisol. He's fidgeting, his breathing is super shallow, his shoulders are hiked up to his ears. Because of mirror neurons, the person he's talking to will unconsciously start to mimic that exact same anxiety. She'll feel tense, she'll feel uncomfortable, she'll want to leave, and she probably won't even know exactly why. But if your body is grounded, your breathing is deep, and you're genuinely calm, she's going to catch that calmness. Confidence isn't just some attractive personality trait. It's a biological contagion. It spreads. You can really see the stark difference when we put these concepts side by side. On the left, consider the first approach, loud confidence. This is basically the try-hard guy at the party. You know exactly the type I'm talking about. He's the one who interrupts your story just so he can tell a slightly better one, or he gets visibly, instantly defensive the second someone disagrees with him. That loudness, it fundamentally stems from insecurity, because it requires constant, real-time external validation just to survive. Now compare this to the alternative on the right, what the source material calls masculine calm. This is a quiet, profoundly secure presence. This is the kind of person who can hold eye contact during a lull in a conversation and not feel this desperate, frantic urge to fill the air with nervous chatter. They listen entirely to understand you, not just to quietly plan their next witty response. They don't need you to validate them, which paradoxically is exactly what makes them so incredibly captivating. Always remember, arrogance is loud, but true confidence is calm. Moving right along to section 2, mastering voice and tone.
Okay, so once you actually have that internal foundation of calm, how do you successfully project it out into the world? Well, you could memorize all the perfect words, but if your delivery is off, the whole message is totally lost. Our sources state this so perfectly. Confidence isn't something you say, it's something people feel from you. Your tone is essentially the emotional subtext running underneath your vocabulary. And trust me, it is far more powerful than the words themselves. Let's just take this simple word, hello. If you say it too quickly, maybe with a really high pitch, it immediately sounds eager, maybe a little desperate. But if you say it slowly, with some deep resonance, it sounds grounded and alluring. In those first crucial seconds of meeting someone, they aren't fully processing your exact dictionary vocabulary yet. Their brain is processing the emotional data of how your voice actually makes them feel.
Listen to how tone can completely change two pretty much identical intentions. Take a look at the apologetic, questioning tone on the left. I thought maybe we could get dinner? Notice how the pitch goes way up at the very end of the sentence. That upward inflection makes a simple statement sound like a question. It literally sounds like you are asking for permission just to exist in her space. It leaks insecurity, and worse, it forces the other person to take on all the conversational leadership. Now contrast that with the confident tone on the right. I'd like to take you to dinner Saturday. The pitch goes down at the end. It's a statement. It's direct, it's warm, and it assumes interest without being overly aggressive. You aren't hedging your bets or apologizing for what you want. So how do we actually train this? The sources give us 3 highly actionable steps you can start practicing right now. First, drop your pitch. When we get nervous, we naturally tense up, and our voices get noticeably higher and kind of thin. To fix this, right before you start speaking, take a deep belly breath, make sure your stomach expands, not your shoulders, and just speak from a relaxed throat. It adds instant natural resonance. Second, you have to ruthlessly eliminate filler words. Things like like, These tiny little words subtly signal that you're terrified of silence and you're anxious to just hold on to the conversational floor. And third, you replace those filler words with strategic silence. A confident speaker isn't afraid to just pause. Imagine giving someone a genuine compliment and then just stopping. Letting that statement land in 2 or 3 seconds of total unbroken silence gives it immense, unforgettable weight.
Let's jump to section 3, icebreakers that actually work. Now we transition chronologically into the actual approach. And honestly, this is where most people completely fail before the interaction even truly begins. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you entered that dreaded conversational death spiral? You know the one. It goes, hey, followed by, hey, then, what's up? Answered with, nothing much. And then just agonizing total silence. The reason this happens is pure simple psychology. A generic opener forces the other person to do all the conversational heavy lifting. Their brain instantly calculates, okay, this person is putting in 0 effort, so I have to do all the work just to make this interesting. And as a result, they just don't. They're going to give you a one-word answer to perfectly match your low-effort opener.
To fix this completely, our sources outline a really brilliant framework of 3 essential elements for an effective icebreaker. First up is specificity. This proves you're actually in the present moment, observing her, not just blindly throwing some copy-pasted pickup line at every single person in the room. Second is curiosity. You want to use a curiosity gap to invite her to contribute, which gives her brain a clear, engaging role in the chat right out of the gate. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, low pressure. You have got to prioritize her comfort over your own desire for attraction. Don't try to trap her in some heavy, deep conversation immediately. By giving her a very easy out, you signal safety. When her brain realizes she isn't trapped in an awkward social situation, her defenses drop, and she'll actually want to stay and talk. Let's look at how this plays out. Consider the generic compliment approach on the left. Hi, you look nice. A woman hears this constantly. It's totally passive, it halts the conversation, and it really doesn't give her anything to work with besides just saying thanks. Now look at the observational opener on the right. That drink looks interesting. What did you order? This perfectly hits all 3 of our rules. It's specific to her immediate environment. It sparks a natural curiosity gap, and it is incredibly low pressure. She can answer the question in 2 seconds flat and then just turn back to her friends if she wants. The crazy irony of social dynamics is that by making it so easy for her to leave, you actually make her far more likely to stay. Section 4. Texting without killing attraction. So, the icebreaker works, the conversation flows beautifully, and you get her number. Awesome. But now we enter the absolute danger zone. Our sources point out that this is precisely where hard-earned in-person chemistry goes to completely die. Welcome to the texting paradox. In person, you have all your tools: body language, eye contact, a resonant voice, that physical calm to convey your value. Over text, all those powerful biological tools are instantly stripped away. You are just sitting there alone, staring at a glowing rectangle, overthinking every single punctuation mark. This isolation severely amplifies our hidden insecurities. You see those 3 gray typing bubbles appear, and then disappear. And suddenly you start imagining the absolute worst, which leads to terrible, anxious decisions that you would literally never make face-to-face. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it illustrates the psychological scarcity principle. Desperate texting, like sending instant replies the literal second she texts you, double texting when she's been silent for an hour, or writing these massive rambling paragraphs, sends a very clear subconscious signal. It screams that your time and attention are incredibly abundant, and therefore, basically invaluable. It essentially says, I have absolutely nothing going on in my life right now but waiting for your text. Purposeful texting, however, leverages scarcity. You delay replies slightly, not as a game, but because you are genuinely busy with your own life. You keep it concise, you aren't afraid to be the one to end the conversation first. In human psychology, scarcity inherently builds value and anticipation. People always value what they have to wait for. To protect you from your own texting anxiety, the sources provide this rapid-fire mental checklist. Use this. First, a maximum of 1 emoji per message, especially early on. Overusing them just looks frantic and try-hard. Second, the 1-line rule. If you are typing a whole novel, you're definitely overinvesting. Third, and please listen to this one because it's massive, text for logistics, not deep connection. This is where guys ruin dates before they even happen. If you spill your entire life story, your deepest hopes, and your wildest dreams over an iMessage screen on a Tuesday, what on earth are you going to talk about at dinner on Friday? Save the heavy emotional topics for when you can actually make eye contact. Finally, match her reply speed. If she takes 3 hours to reply, do not reply in 3 minutes. Just keep the rhythm balanced.
All right, we've made it to Section 5, Escaping the Talking Phase.
If you've successfully navigated the texting minefield, you reach the final hurdle, actually converting that digital banter into a real-world date. And a lot of people fall right into the talking phase trap. They get super comfortable just sending good morning and how is your date text for weeks on end. It kind of feels like progress, but it's a total illusion. It feels safe because there's no real risk of face-to-face rejection. But look at this timeline from the data. In weeks 1 and 2, her interest and curiosity are at their absolute peak. But by weeks 3 and 4, if you haven't made a physical move, she starts wondering why you lack the confidence to step up, and that interest sharply declines. By weeks 5 and 6, it is a total loss. She assumes you just want a pen pal. Waiting around for the perfect moment to ask her out basically guarantees failure. So how do you actually know when it's time to strike? You look for the signals. The sources detail this highly effective setup. You're looking for indicators in the green lights column. If you see things like she replies relatively quickly, or she actively asks you questions about your life instead of just giving one-word answers to yours, if she uses emojis or playful language, and her overall tone is relaxed, those are green lights. That is your indicator to make a move. Conversely, you have to pay strict attention to the red lights. She never initiates the conversation. She's always busy but never offers an alternative day to hang out, or she explicitly calls you friend or buddy. If you're getting red lights, pull back completely. Do not force an ask. When it is finally time to ask, avoid the weak, hesitant approach at all costs. Saying something like, if you're not busy, maybe we could hang out sometime, completely lacks confidence. It uses vague terminology like hang out. And honestly, worst of all, it puts the entire burden of figuring out the actual logistics onto her. Instead, utilize a natural, confident ask like on the right. I enjoyed our talk. Let's grab dinner Friday. It states your intention clearly, it implies you know your own worth, and it provides specific logistics for her to simply say yes to. Now, what you do after she says yes is arguably the most important part of this whole sequence, and it's where guys easily fumble. Step 1, quickly confirm the time and place. Simple. Step 2, do not text her for the next 24 to 48 hours. I know, this is highly counterintuitive. Your anxiety is going to scream at you to check in, just to make sure she hasn't forgotten about you or lost interest. Resist that urge. Stop trying to artificially build connection over text right before the date. Let her anticipate it. Let her wonder what you're doing. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and a little strategic silence builds massive intrigue. Then, step 3, send exactly one brief, confident text on the morning of the date just to confirm you're still on. Ultimately, this entire pipeline, from mastering your own nervous system to navigating the tricky digital world, relies entirely on you taking the wheel. As our sources so beautifully summarize, the truth is there is no perfect moment. There is only the moment you decide to act. True confidence, that masculine calm we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer, isn't about having zero fear. It's about recognizing that the temporary discomfort of taking action is infinitely better than the agonizing comfort of a dead-end talking phase. You've seen the powerful biology behind masculine calm. You've learned how to drop your pitch and master your tone. You know the exact science behind observational icebreakers, and you've unlocked the scarcity principle of texting. You possess the complete chronological blueprint. The only variable left in this equation is you. You now know exactly what to do. But do you have the courage to actually ask?